Hi, I'm Kyle with Stern Pinball, and in this video we are going to go over the removal, installation, and calibration procedure for your animatronic King Kong assembly. To remove the assembly from your playfield, we're going to need to have the glass off of the game. So if you don't know how to do that, we do have a video on our Tech School playlist. Go ahead and refer to that. The tools we'll need to remove the assembly from the back panel are a 1/4 inch and a 5/16 inch nut driver. Once we have the glass off the game, pull the playfield up, forward, and rest it in the forward service position on the rubber feet in the front of the cabinet. With the playfield now in the forward service position, we can go ahead and power the game off to remove the assembly from the back panel. For demonstration purposes, I have the playfield propped up on the cabinet, but everything we need to address to remove the assembly is on the back panel. So we have our 48-volt power to the node board here. We've got our 2 data lines for the data bus here. And then we will need to remove the 2 1/4 inch head screws here and the 2 5/16 inch nuts that hold the assembly into the back panel here. These connections on the board do not need to be moved, so do not touch those guys there. Just the 2 data and 48-volt power connections. With those removed and out of the way, I'm going to start by removing the 2 screws on the bottom using my 1/4 inch nut driver here. Remove the 1/4 inch head screws down at the bottom. With those out of the way, we'll get the 5/16 inch nut driver and remove the 2 nuts from the studs on the top side. I'm going to loosen them till they're just about at the end of the stud and then remove them with my fingers just to not drop washers or the nut or anything like that. And with those removed, we can guide the assembly forwards off the back panel and then up and out of the game. Now that we have the assembly out of the game, let's take it over to the bench and take a closer look at the inside of the assembly. To get inside the assembly, we need a number 1 Phillips screwdriver. On the back of the molded assembly, we have a cover plate, so we can remove these 2 screws. And this will reveal the 3 servo motors that work the assembly. With the back plate off, we can now see the 3 servos. So we've got the left and right servo motor, the right arm servo motor, and the left arm servo motor. Each of these servo motors plugs into this servo motor control board. This tells the servo motors what they're supposed to do. So the purpose of disassembling the Kong assembly is to quell curiosities and show the insides of it. If you were to remove your King Kong assembly from your game and take the arms off, it would require recalibration of the assembly. So I don't recommend doing that unless you absolutely need to. Let's remove one of the arms and we can see what we have underneath here. The arms are held in with, again, a small Phillips head screw. We're going to hold the arm in place while we loosen it so we don't turn the servo motor. When we get that loose and pull the arm off of the servo motor, you'll see that the servos have a 25-tooth spline. What that means is this arm has a matching spline with 25 indentations. Unless you put this arm on in the absolutely exact same position you removed it from, it is going to be out of calibration. While we're looking at the arm, we can also see some calibration marks. These are marks that you will use when recalibrating the assembly as a visual guide when you're setting the calibration in software. How would you use these calibration marks? So in software, when you're setting the maximum up and maximum down levels, you'll want to adjust it so those calibration marks here are just visible and lined up with the flat portion of Kong's back. So that would be up, and we would move it down, 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 and when it's lined up like that, that is our down position. Retighten the arm here. So now we're going to reinstall the back plate, or King Kong's backpack. Notice on one edge we do have a cutout. This cutout is for the servo motor's wiring loom here. So we want to make sure that we put the wiring loom through that cutout and get Kong kind of squared up with the plate here, the backing plate. You can slide the plate back in. So position the wiring loom like this in the plate. And then we can try to get these little cleats into the slit in the base of King Kong here, so it sits just like that. So now the little cleats are installed in the plate here. And now we can take our screws and attach the plate here to the back of the assembly. Now that we have the assembly back together, we can take it back over to the game and reattach it to the back panel. Installation is the opposite of removal. We are going to take the King Kong assembly here and we are going to guide it into the back panel using the studs at the top of the assembly. And once we get it in, we can use the washers and nuts to tack it in place. So I'm starting from the top. I'm using the nuts to hold the King Kong assembly from being able to fall off and out of the back panel. Once I have the washers and nuts installed and hand tightened, I'm going to drive them home and get them snug, but not totally tight. Once those are in, I'm going to take our other screws and I'm going to install those through the bottom. And once those are tight, I'll move back up to the nuts and I will tighten those down. All right, and with that, we can reattach our 48-volt power to the node board and then get our node bus data cables and reattach those to the ports that they plug into. And we have an installed Kong animatronic. In the game settings, there is a calibration menu to adjust each start and stop position of the King Kong animatronic. We can access that through the diagnostic menu. As we get into the main menu, we can scroll down to device tests, move down to the Kong mech calibration, and now we're presented with the calibration menu. Each of these entries here is a different position. So a min being the lower limit and a max being the upper limit of its movement. If we move through it, the game will move the arms into these positions as we move through. If you needed to, for some reason, change one of these settings, we could enter the calibration menu and we could change the value, and that will change the position of that maximum. We can set that new value in that spot and hold it there. So again, if something was a little too high, a little too low, maybe something got out of whack, we can change those values and save them by pressing the black button. If we look through here, we can see also that we have our current values and default values. So on some of these things that I just changed, right? It's showing me here like the default value before we changed it was 159. The current value is 178. So if you make a change that you're not so happy with, at least you can bring it back to the starting position and then readjust from there. I hope you enjoyed that little dive into the King Kong animatronic. Thanks for watching another video from Stern Tech School.